Good day, everyone. Welcome to Digital Ag Global, your go-to information source for everything ag tech. We're at episode 14 now, second season, this is our second episode in season two. And we're thrilled to have Andrew Bawden of farms.com as our guest today. As well, of course, Yuri Kovalchuk, the CEO of Cultivate, is coming to us from Lviv in Ukraine. And Yuri and I will try and find out everything we can about Andrew's podcast, his business at farms.com, and try and provide some perspectives for everyone in our audience. But before we go to Andrew, I'd like to turn it over to Yuri to talk a little bit about his perspective on digital information sharing is really, I think, our topic today, and also to maybe remind everybody a little bit about Cultivate and its business model. Yuri?
For sure. Thank you, Clyde. Guys, welcome back to Digital Ag Global. I'm very happy that you guys sticking around and listening to our podcast. Today we have a very interesting guest, and we will introduce Andrew just in a second. I want to remind everyone that at Cultivate we are helping businesses to create digital innovations in the agri-food value chain. And also I want to remind our audience that Digital Ag Global as a podcast, as a platform, is offering sponsorship opportunities. So if you are willing and want to become a part of our network, get access to all the insights to our audience and to speaking opportunities, feel free to drop us a line and we will get you sorted. With this said, we have a very wonderful guest today, Andrew Bawden. Stage is yours. Quick introduction for our audience and kind of a background story, I guess.
Yeah, go ahead, Andrew.
Perfect. Oh, I appreciate it. Thanks, Yuri, and thanks, Clyde. It's a pleasure to be here today and just speaking with you. A little bit about me. I've been with farms.com for almost 20 years. So if you think about how the world has changed in technology in that time, when I joined, most people said farmers would never go online. So the world has certainly changed in that. I've got involved more heavily involved in the ag tech side of things. I'm going to guess somewhere in about 2010-ish, when I saw where technology was really starting to change how farming could take advantage of these and improve the productivity and profitability, and deal with what has become even more and more of an issue is a labor shortage. So these are kind of things that have been developed. Farms.com, and I don't know if you want to go into the history of farms.com or we can go.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think you should,
Sure.
Andrew.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just kind of the genesis of the company. So farms.com started in the 90s. The four guys that thought, and that was back when it was still dial up and there wasn't a lot of accessibility into the market, but really thought that there's could be some benefit for farmers to get information. So it was really, how can we make this technology that exists right now in the farming world, in the agricultural world, in the internet, and get those two together. So four founders really thought this is the way they go. They all worked in agricultural in different ways, from the pig business to the chemical side. Lots of different focuses on that, the finance side of it as well. But they all worked together and they saw it because of their core and where they came from in farming. They wanted to solve a problem for farmers. And that's really how this all got started.
Yeah. Well, go ahead, Andrew. Yeah.
Yeah. So kind of the way we got going on this was, we started the new farms.com website, and tried to took advantage of, because there was issues, whether you were waiting for a periodical, magazine, a weekly paper. That information was old by the time you got it. Radio information, sometimes you get it. You get the news report. If you didn't get it, you didn't know what was going on. Weather was dependent on that. All this information that you kind of helped you improve your operations day by day was always laggardly, or you didn't have enough detail. So
Mhm.
really what we saw is, let's take something that was farms.com, where we can actually give you timely information in more detail, and give you the flexibility that if the timing isn't right for you right now, you can access it at any time. So
Mhm.
that's the whole genesis of how farms.com got started.
Yeah, well, and so by way of background, I was a journalist in Winnipeg in the early 1980s. Um, and, I think, as you said, there were kind of two major formats that farmers got information. One was through weekly newspapers, agricultural based newspapers. The ones that were kind of prominent for me were the Western Producer and the Manitoba Cooperator. But that was like you were waiting by the mailbox for that to come along by Canada Post at the time, and then radio was always a very strong format uh, for farmers. So crop prices, livestock market information, news related to that. We're we're all getting a little feedback here. So I don't think that's me.
I'm not getting anything.
Andrew, there's a bit of echo on your side when someone is speaking. We can hear ourselves.
Okay.
But
All right. Well, let's stroll through. Maybe Olia can try and see if she can figure out the issue there. I think maybe we've solved it. Good. And so, but farmers who are in, mostly in rural areas, many far removed from large population centers, had a lot of trouble getting accurate, timely information. And then too, for radio, it's a very passive format, right? You can't decide when to listen to a radio program. It's when it's on, it's on. So, I mean, I think your founders were really smart to jump on this early, and I heard the same things when I was in. Internet was starting to get going, and people saying there's not the bandwidth, the farmers will never catch on, they don't like internet, et cetera, et cetera. And I think all that's been proven very, very wrong. Yuri, do you want to pipe in?
For sure. I guess I have a question to Andrew in terms of the audience. I assume you are guys like a first early adopters of internet and bringing farmers into internet. How hard was your journey from getting first regular visitors, getting first subscriptions? Was it like a .com boom, or was it more of a gradual growth for you and your media company?
So there was kind of two different things that happened. So one was definitely because we were an early adopter. We did go through that .com craze in the late 90s. So that created a lot of buzz on what was available, and we did go through that VC growth. Bunch of investors come in, but still, it was done on funding about, this is something for the internet, but not something with a very solid business plan behind the VC side of things. So that was kind of that growth and that awareness. We got that benefit from the VC and the .com craze, was certainly built some of our audience. The rest of the audience has been really a slow, continuous growth, just providing more and more valuable information, and great things like Google have helped us massively, because when you search something, You can find it on farms.com. It makes a big difference. Prior to that, you had Yahoo. There was a
Yeah.
bunch of other search engines that came and went, but trying to fit to those the best. Really, what made a big difference was good, solid search engines that allowed us to get our content that we were generating out to a larger audience. And then from there, we also had a bit of a good luck story, and I can tell you this now, or we can tell it a little bit later. But
Go ahead, Andrew. Sounds like you've got the flow.
yeah, so one of our founders, Joe Dales, he was kind of going through the internet and always liked to get good happy stories, good fortune stories and stuff like that. And he came across a just an audio uh, kind of small just description called God Made a Farmer. And God Made a Farmer was a recording that was done in the, I'm going to guess, in the early 50s or 40s, somewhere around there. And we took that message that we thought was a great message and we digitized it. And we took a bunch of images from farmers that we knew, and we posted it on farms.com and on YouTube. And then we put it into our newsletter, and that started to grow and grow and grow, and it got massive. We had over 4 million views. We had friends that were our co-workers that were in offices all over North America getting calls from their friends saying, "Have you ever seen this?" And they didn't know it was a farms.com one. And from that, because it was such a strong, it was Paul Harvey's voice that
Right.
was doing
Yeah.
this. And from that, we were contacted by the people at Ram Trucks, and they actually redid that, took all that information. We worked with them on positioning and all that, and they launched that as a Super Bowl ad. So it was kind of a really fun story to be involved in. It was a great message for agriculture, and we were super happy to be involved in it.
Right. Yeah, I remember Paul Harvey when I was in
Yeah.
journalism at that time in Winnipeg, because we had a broadcast side, broadcast news, and they used to carry the feed from Paul Harvey's um, radio program, which I think was called The Rest of the Story, I think. And
Yes, that's
I
exactly it.
and
Yeah.
he had an incredible radio voice. But just for people that aren't aware of it, I think God Created a Farmer was really an homage to the hard work and the important role in society that farmers had. And I think it was something that farmers were looking at the time. In the 80s, there was a lot of difficulties on farms in terms of
Sure.
financial and things like that, right? So that would have really been a touchstone for a lot of people in the rural community. So,
Andrew,
go ahead, Yuri.
just one kind of a small question from my side. Right now, farms.com, it's not just about one website. I know that you are have a few businesses or media resources under your umbrella. How does it fall into one website, or it's just a few companies or a group of companies working together, should I say?
Yeah, that's a good question, Yuri. So farms.com is the parent company for us. It's our brand, our primary brand on the digital side. We have some other digital properties. Our second largest one would be agriville.com, which is a Western Canadian platform. It's really a forum for farmers to talk and share information. And it is very, very popular, but it is very Western Canadian focused. So it's
Yeah.
we do get some because of the crops that are grown, we do get some crossover from people in the northern US, in the Dakotas, and then from Australia as well.
Yeah.
just because of the canola is obviously the biggest talk. We have spring wheat, pulses, things like that. So those are things that are relevant to that audience that would be relevant to other people.
Right. Well, I kind of want to take it a little bit global at this point because I mean that is our audience. There's a lot of people in our audience who I think struggle to get online access. I think we're fortunate in Canada that despite some dead zones and things like that, that generally access to the internet has grown, and the quality and the availability of the signals have grown a lot. Um, so where do you see the evolution of this going from the internet platform and that and I mean, have we completely solved the availability issue in Canada, or do you still have people that are struggling to get your information? And maybe, do you see any other technology on the horizon that may increase the accessibility, particularly in developing parts of the world?
Question, Clyde, and I think it depends on who you're talking to on these things.
Right.
If you're Rogers, you've got complete coverage for everyone, but that's not the reality, and we still hear from it, especially in Western Canada, where there's some definitely some big areas where connectivity is an issue, and even in Northern Ontario, there's some issues as well. Beyond. East of of Ontario, I'm not really sure, but these are the ones that I'm involved in and hear about a lot. I think there's some technologies that are going to improve that. I think satellite is going to become more prevalent, and cheaper, and eventually that will start to change things. And if satellite can work, then obviously we don't need big towers, and then the world really changes.
Mhm.
Um, Interestingly enough, when you look at places like third world, they're using older technology to try to communicate. You see things like low frequency radio being able to transport information, um, and it's inexpensive. So it's a kind of a balance of what's the cost versus where you can actually have impact. So I don't think it's going to be the same across the world, but I think as we continue to grow, that connectivity is going to get better and better.
Yeah, well, I think ultimately, even though people question the value of the internet, given uh, some of the anger that tends to come across on internet platforms, I think we're all better if we talk to each other around the world and have access to accurate information as comes through farmers.com. On the technology question, Yuri, what do you see ahead coming in terms of access to internet, particularly in rural areas?
For sure, Andrew was absolutely right. Satellite internet is absolutely Lord and Savior when you don't have big towers. When you have rural areas, satellite internet works. There are very famous company out there already providing the service for satellite internet worldwide, and even in Ukraine, our farmers and a lot of population in Ukraine have benefit from that already. And it's true, there are a lot of technology that allows you to have an access to internet connection uh, wherever you are. But
Mhm.
I just wanna kind of pivot our conversation. Farms.com being a great website, a lot of information, a lot of exposure to local farmers in North America. Uh, but I want to talk a bit more about new ways or new platforms on how to get interesting and relevant information to farmers. And one of those kind of rising stars for last couple of years are podcasts. And I know that Andrew started his own podcast, so I would like to talk a bit about that. Andrew, could you give us an overview of AgTech with Andrew, what it's all about, who are you talking to, and yeah, we are a friendly podcast, so we're gonna give Andrew an possibility to talk about his podcast as well.
Thanks, Yuri. I appreciate that, and that's very kind of you to allow me to tell me a little bit about what my podcast is. And I'm going to go back a little bit and tell you how this all got started. As I said, I got involved in ag tech quite a while ago when I was started with Farms.com. And actually, I thought it was 2008, but now I think it's 2010. It was 2008. I did my first video interview with a company called Trimble, which I'm pretty sure everyone's familiar with. And that was really kind of when they started to roll out the auto steer. So auto steer obviously changed how we farm. It's massive how much an impact that's had. But even back then when that came on, people said there's no way a machine can drive a tractor better than I can. It didn't take long for people to realize, you know, the overspraying or mispassing and all that stuff, how much that changed it. So as this technology continued to grow, and there was more and more adoption of it, and then we were getting kind of overwhelmed with the different technologies that were coming together for ag tech, we realized that farmers didn't really know what was going to work for them and what their cost is going to be and what the pain points were going to be. And basically, this is great. You're going to talk to a guy at a trade show, but when it comes to rubber hits the road, is it going to make it better for me? And it's going to make my life easier, and I'm going to make more money off this. So these are big things that farmers didn't know. So we created an ag tech trade show conference, and that was to allow companies that exist in ag tech to speak to farmers and allow the farmers to ask real questions and have these companies show proof of performance on some of this data rather than, hey, buy this shiny thing without any real proof of it working. So that's kind of how it got started. And through that, I kept on doing interviews with the various companies as we did this, and got very big during that COVID time because no one could go face to face. So everything was documented. And I realized, well, this is a good time for us to start sharing this information, not just with our audience from our conferences, but out to the larger public. And that's kind of how the conference or the ag tech podcast got started. And from there, we kept on growing and growing. Our focus is really on sharing information of new ag tech to the farming community. That's who our target audience is. So we try to reach out to as many companies as possible. There's some that we may talk about it later. Ones that I've been working with for 6-7 years, but they continue to grow and they're really having very good impact on the industry. Others have come and gone, so it's really kind of interesting to see where the real winners are over this time. And you also get the hesitancy from the producer side because of some of these things that have come and gone as well.
By producers, you mean farmers, different terminology in different parts of the world, right? So, yeah, farmers aren't once bitten, twice shy, I think, in when it comes to new technologies sometimes.
Yeah.
And so how are you gauging your success on your podcast? I mean, in terms of the numbers, impact, presumably you have some revenue. I don't know.
Yeah, right now the revenue is limited. We're really trying to, it still goes back to the genesis of farms.com is how can we help farmers make better decisions? So
Right.
the focus when I started doing this was really about helping farmers, giving them information.
Mhm.
And from there, we'll will monetize, and we are monetizing a little bit, but that's not our primary goal, because we think that over time it'll find its place, and we'll be very good at it. But it's really about, I spend a lot of time just researching kind of what technologies are coming out, and seeing where that's gonna really help the farmer.
Right. Well, I think there's been this concept of Web 2.0, which is if you develop a presence on the web and provide good information, and that eventually it will monetize. I don't know how accurate that is or not, but Yuri, I mean, we're at episode 14 of Digital Ag Global. How do you feel we've been progressing in terms of the podcast, and where you'd like to take this?
Well, that's actually a very good comparison. We have an Andrew who is kind of a colleague because he also have an ag tech related podcast. And even though we don't have such a huge background story, I feel like when we started a Digital Ag Global, that was for two main reasons. First one, naturally, in the nature of our commercial work, we talk to a lot of ag tech innovators, people who are creating new technology or have ideas on how to change ag tech industry. And we thought, okay, yeah, we can put it into a format that will be accessible to a larger audience. We will give a platform for people to talk about their ideas, about their technology, and how it impacts agri-food value chain. So looking back on 14th episode, I can definitely say we had a lot of good guests, and I hope a lot of good guests got a follow, and we will have a great season 2. But it's a very, I would say, humbling experience. The more you do it, the more you understand you can grow and produce better content and have better and more engaging conversation. So it's I guess ongoing work for, at least for me, Clyde. I think it might be different for you, but let me know.
Yeah, no, I enjoy this, and look, I come from my background. My last job was in the fertilizer industry, and maybe my former colleagues might question this, but there's nothing lower tech in agriculture than fertilizer to some extent. I mean, now there are, you know, innovations in terms of biofertilizers and application techniques and stuff like that. But it's the, you know, fertilizers kind of on the lower end of the spectrum. So it's been a privilege for me to talk to people like Andrew and many of our other, and all of our other guests about this space and how things are evolving. And you know, I found it just really intellectually stimulating to be a part of this. I mean, okay, I think we've got a question for Andrew here. Andrew, does AI play a role in your work today? How is it influencing ag media as a whole? And that's from Adriana. Thanks, Adriana.
Yeah, so I appreciate the question, Adriana. It's kind of interesting how depending on who we're talking to, or which part of farms.com is using it. On my day-to-day, I use a lot of AI to do research. So I'm always trying to find out what kind of technology is out there, what information is available for farmers. So I do a lot of AI research, and some of the deep dive stuff. So I use different platforms. A lot of people just use ChatGPT. I find that one can be useful, but there's others that can get a lot more in detail. So if you're trying to compare platforms or software systems or robotic systems, how do you compare them versus their website information versus deep dive where they actually compared down, you know, to the real core of how these companies work. So that's one of the ways I use it. AI on the media side, we also use it for just kind of searching for kind of what's new in the industry, what's kind of the hot topics. So we definitely use it as that. Um, we tend to avoid any AI generated content because we find that you know farmers want trust. They want trust in they're getting their information from, and if we're using that AI side of things for content, then there's a risk that we lose that trust. And we've built our content based on that trust. So it's really important that we continue that path. Um, is there a place for it? Maybe, but that's not the way that we like to build our content.
Sure.
Hopefully that helps.
Yeah. Yuri, what about AI as a part of the media landscape? What do you see happening there?
Well, I'm gonna be honest. I kind of agree with Andrew on AI generated content because there are a lot of it right now. If you check, every other company out there generate their blog from AI, just AI generated articles and all of that, and it helps. There is a place on using AI to kind of to do a better copywriting or to do a better research, but for a native content that is engaging, uh, I think AI as a content creator is not there yet. Right now, in like, and why I ask about Andrew and his um, podcast journey, because I believe that video content itself and audio content right now gonna win, and it's gonna help to bring the audience to the right resources. So if we compare 7 years ago, everyone was reading articles online. Right now, everyone is listening to podcasts on their way to work, on their lunch break, or after the work. So audio and video content gonna dominate the market, and that's why podcasts are very good format for farms for farmers, sorry, and for ag tech innovations in general. Farmers tend to work a lot, and they need something they can digest whenever they have a minute, and those
Mhm.
type of content very help. And you cannot generate, at least right now, you cannot generate a podcast just from an AI prompt. You need to actually sit and talk to a person and bring some insights and open up a story and give all the details and all the insights you can get.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you talked about auto steer and how in North America now, and I think other parts of the world increasingly, uh, farmers' attention is not entirely directed at steering the tractor, and into some sense, tractors have become like a mobile office for farmers. But at the same time, that's a long time to be by yourself if you're an attractor. Um, and yes, you can absorb a lot of content, but you don't have that human kind of touch. And I mean, I think that is still, Yuri, I think you hit on a little bit. It's the humanity that is still important to people. I mean, do you get that kind of connection with some of the people through your podcast, but also farms.com? It's is a positive signal for you.
Yeah, sorry, you just cut out a little bit there, but I think what you're saying, we have a very, very strong communication and community on our Agroville because that is a forum. So
Okay.
those guys are on there all the time. They're talking, and it's most of the time they're either in the cab, where they're spraying, planting, seeding, harvesting. Or the other thing is these podcasts, if you're working in the shop or anywhere else, you can keep your hands busy and you can still listen. So that's the big benefit, right? Is
Right.
because you're basically you're you're multitasking and you're learning and you're communicating and you're sharing. So that community is gigantic, especially for farmers, because they're often just, they're by themselves or they're isolated. Don't get to see people as much, and I think it's a really important that we continue to offer that.
A sense of online sort of community that people can be part of.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
right. Um, yeah, I don't think there's any. I don't know. Maybe some people will figure out how to have AI engage in that way, but I don't see it happening in the near future. So maybe I think we could maybe pivot for a second, Andrew, and because you're deep in this space, I think we'd be interested in some of your views on, what you think is going to be game changing or important in the future in terms of the ag tech area, and maybe you might want to give us some ideas on what kinds of things maybe are being a bit overhyped. I think we've caught your audio off there, Andrew.
Sorry, here we go. Sorry about that.
No problem.
No worries.
No, that's a very good question, Clyde. Because as I said, I've been pretty heavily involved in this for a while, and I've seen stuff come and go, and some of it's been you don't understand why it disappeared, and others you understand there was a lot of good marketing behind it, but wasn't necessarily a product that was going to deliver the way it promised. So that's kind of that weird balance you have. Where I find where the biggest impact you're going to have is where um, machinery, technology, that part of it is going to improve your productivity, because those are things that you can actually physically see and see the difference on those. So they're really important. Robotics, drone technology that can actually give you valuable information, stuff that's automatic. It goes out and does its work automatically. There's companies that do weed. It's robots that do weeding, and they run nonstop. They just keep on do weeding.
Mhm.
They never stop. And then once they're done one area, they go back and
Yeah.
they do it again and again and again. So that technology is pretty cool. It works all the time. You can see the benefit of it, and you can actually easily measure it. So it's costing me this much to run this at this time. I would have spent uh, X amount on a herbicide that I don't need to have to pay now, or I'm paying less on. So right away, anything that's easily measurable, we find that technology gets picked up quickly, and as was auto steer when it first came out.
Right.
Where you see some of that kind of gray area is there's some fantastic biologicals that have come out, and then some that haven't really worked out. So the biological one is one of those gray areas. A company called Smart Soil that's really kind of leading edge, one that I've caught my eye. They're using algae, a byproduct from algae. It's just the metabolites out of algae, and it actually stimulates the activity, the microbial activity in the ground, and it increases growth, yield, and even we're finding that the if you use it on, there was example on blueberries where the shelf life of these products are longer as well. So there's a lot of really cool benefits of this. Now it's early technology, but all the data showing is very positive. Now, I'm not saying it's the be all and end all, but I've seen other biologicals where you saw some data and it didn't work. So I think that's one that's going to be pretty exciting coming out there. And then, you know, the scouting stuff that's out there that's really cool, where you're scouting plant health, you're scouting stresses, you're still scouting pest issues. These are all things that you can react to instantly because you're scouting constantly. So those things I think are really good as well. But
In terms
again,
of, when you say scouting for pests, whether it's insect, weeds, or fungus, that kind of thing.
exactly, yeah. It's all done through AI and cameras, different monitors, systems that tend to work really well. Finding a lot, the adoption of this is much higher in the greenhouse business because it's very controlled. Not as much on the row crop, but companies that are doing really well. Bloomfield Robotics is another one. That's one that I talked to about a long time ago. They've got some really good scanning technologies for the viticulture business. So, and they've been around for a long time. They were actually one of my earlier companies involved in my conference, and yeah, they've done really well.
Yeah, when I was working with ag business more directly, and particularly at the retail of companies that dealt with farmers in terms of providing them with their crop inputs and that, I used to have this discussion about what you're really selling is not fertilizer or pesticides or even farm equipment. You're really selling profitability to farmers as a key outcome that you're trying to get. But I think as I've thought about that a little bit, there are other things that are less tangible that are still important to farmers. So things like, avoiding the drudgery parts of farming, and auto steers helped with that a lot. Just making the work more, allowing farmers to focus more on the part of farming that they enjoy and having to do less of the stuff that they don't. But I think there are other things like peace of mind, knowing, as you said, with remote sensing, maybe there's not much you can do about it, at least, but you do know where you're at any given time, whether it's with crops in the field or your livestock in the barn. So I think, though, Yuri, what do you think about what it is that we're actually trying to achieve with farmers in terms of the value proposition?
Well, it's a good question, and I always think that like end users of agtech innovations, farmers, they evaluate any innovations from a return on investment perspective. We've talked about this a lot, and we have a great episode about farmers insights and their thoughts on agtech innovations. We've done it back in 2024, I guess, so you can check that out. But essentially, it's all about ROI for farmers, whether it's a laser weeding or it's a new type of herbicide. Uh, that's how they gonna structure their decision. How much will I invest, and how much I will be able to earn from it, or how much I will be able to save up. In terms of technology advancement and where is the future, laser weeding is one of kind of leaders of robotic innovations right now. There are a few very good companies who have this technology already tested and already deployed on fields, Carbon Robotics and a couple of others. But the question, I think that the question stands, the economics of those technologies. I mean, would you pay $500,000 for a new laser robot that's gonna weed, or you will buy a pesticide for half of that or even less, and do it the old-fashioned way? So the economics of innovations, and I'm not talking only about the robotic weeding, but any innovation, it should work for farmers or for industry as a whole, and that's when things got adopted. When you sell auto steer as a part of your offering because you are selling the tractor or you're selling the combine itself, that's gonna work. But if it's a very expensive add-on, it might not work for the farmers.
Right. Well, we're coming up towards the end of our time. Andrew, I wonder, it's been a while since I've been on farms.com, to be honest, but I'm going to be spending some time there. Like for our audience, in Canada, but also globally, do you have any tips for people who want to engage on farms.com? I mean, where would you start? Is there part of the offering that you think they should go to? And then also, how do they find your podcast?
Yeah, that's great. I appreciate that, Clyde. So, as far as farms.com, so we've got a lot of different resources for companies. So if you're a farmer and you want to sell some equipment, you can do it. You can post your equipment on there. There's no charge for that. It's just something that we do to help farmers move products. We have a real estate side. So if people are looking to buy land around there, that's going to be available. But the core of what we do is still trying to provide valuable information to help producers improve their productivity, profitability. So it's really about information first. We do have some paid side of things. Our risk management team puts out a podcast weekly on what's going on with the markets. And then they have recommendations as a paid side of that. But they've been really accurate in trying to help farmers make decisions on their marketing. So that's a big tool that we have. Another big tool we have is our software side, which was PigChamp. So we have reproductive swine software. It was developed at the University of Minnesota. We've owned it since, I think, 2000 or 2001. It's in 40 different countries, and it's the best record-keeping software that's out on the market right now. So that's it's very limited because it's for the pork industry, but it's a very powerful software system. And then on the HR side of things, so we own, which was actually a magazine that one of the founders started, digitized, is Ag Careers. So Ag Careers is a job board for agriculture. It's the largest specific job board in North America for jobs. So lots of different tools that we have to offer for the industry and for farmers. So that's really trying to pull it all together and make sure that if there's a need, we can try to satisfy it with information.
So get your work boots on, get into farms.com and explore. I think that's your kind of basic advice. What about your podcast? Where do we find your podcast?
Yeah, that's great. So you can find my podcast on YouTube. So we post it on YouTube. I'm also posting it on just started breaking down on TikTok. I'm not sure if that's working too great, but I'm trying to do little snippets that way. So that's another location, and it's also on Spotify. So Spotify is another location.
So the keywords, your name, is that
Ag Tech with Andrew. Ag Tech with Andrew is
Ag Tech with Andrew. Okay, that's great. Yeah.
Made it easy.
Well, we really enjoyed the conversation today. I think I'm speaking for Yuri on that. Thanks very much for joining us. And Yuri, as always, we try and give the last word to you.
Yep. Thank you, Clyde. Guys, thank you for sticking around. Great discussion with you today, Andrew. And for all of our viewers and audience and people who want to watch this in recording, stay tuned for our October episode. We're going to talk a bit more about AgTech specifically and go-to-market strategies in AgTech. And in meanwhile, make sure you subscribe to Digital Ag Global. Make sure you subscribe to AgTech with Andrew. And thanks for watching us.
All right. Thanks a lot, Andrew. Thanks, Yuri.
Thank you, Andrew.
Bye.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Clyde. Bye.